Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast on Citizen TV, and just before the break, of course, we were discussing this headline on the front page of the Standard, and it has to do with the bullying, revelations of bullying, extreme bullying at Alliance High School, and the headline reads, "Alliance made my son lie on founder's grave." Now let me just read the highlights there as we move on to another headline. Matiang'i orders nationwide probe into bullying as police descend on Alliance. Tension is high in school as parents return children from midterm break.
Very good.
Yes, now children are going back. Fate of discipline master in limbo as prefects are demoted, others probed. Board reads riot act to teachers and vows to restore school's image. Kenyans stunned by happenings in school associated with honor and privilege, and questions arise over circumstances that pushed former principal out. Now, of course, we do expect that we're going to see more of this happening, and of course we'll report it because it is one of the top stories of the day and this week. The other top story, and this one features on the front page of the Daily Nation, is an audit on governors. Anti-graft team says it has unearthed hundreds of get-rich-quick schemes spearheaded by county chiefs. Governors now face a lifestyle audit ahead of polls. The story is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. And of course, this will mean that some of these governors might not be allowed to run. If that is the case, the Anti-Corruption Commission will carry out a lifestyle audit on governors, members of county assemblies, and county officials, including speakers of county assemblies, ahead of the general election, as investigations reveal that billions of shillings allocated to the devolved units are ending up in the pockets of individuals. The ESCC say that they've unearthed hundreds of get-rich-quick schemes among MCAs, governors, and county officials who used to live modestly but are now living in opulence. Now, of course, governors have come out and say that they've been targeted. Probably senators are behind this issue because, of course, senators and governors have not had a very nice relationship. For obvious reasons, most senators want to be governors.
They're not that many.
They're quite a number, though. They're quite a number.
They're not even half
who
the
want
house.
to be. But do you think that it's a witch hunt? Because it's only 5 months to the elections. These things have been happening since 2013 when these governors came into office. Why is it just now that we are seeing like, no, we need to check these people?
But I'll tell you, Fred, that we have spoken about a lifestyle audit, not just of governors, even of any person who
County
sits in a
assembly
public,
speakers.
everyone who sits in a public office. We have spoken to it since 2014, since 2013, 2014, when we started even looking at the audit reports. And you know, the danger with our audit system is that we only look at the financial transactions without going to the details of how are you living, so that you can make an inference on how your life has changed. One, this money that ESCC is talking about, it's not new. We have institutions. We have even the asset recovery unit. We actually have a whole commission of asset recovery. We have sat with them. We have sat with ESCC. We have sat with the police. We have sat with DCI, the criminal investigation, because there are serious cases that would need to be investigated. And it has nothing to do with witch hunt. I say it's the law. Of course, it can be contested because you can go to court if you are, you know, there has to be proof that it is directly linked. Your living standards are directly linked to money stolen from the public coffers. But I think the issue of audit is something we must incorporate. Lifestyle audit we must incorporate in our auditing system, even as a country, not just for governors, for every public officer. That you must tell us if you are living in a small house. All of a sudden, we saw it in Kisumu that you have 5 Porsches, you have a Mercedes, you have a Range Rover. You must tell us, where is this money coming from? We saw that in a CEC, I think, in a CEC's home in Kisumu. So this must be done, and we must separate the politics from it. But the timing, of course, will bring a bit of political temperatures, but I would say that we leave the institutions to do their work. They must be devoid of witch hunt. Of course, we have a new head of in ESCC. We hope that we'll be getting more than prayers. More than prayers for the corrupt individuals, so that we have results and we have protection of money meant for public.
Well, Peter Kaluma, of course, heading to the elections, it's only 5 months. If indeed it's true that some of these county bosses have engaged in some malpractice, they should not be allowed to run. But do you think, are you optimistic that this process will head anywhere? It's only 5 months to the elections. Do you think that this process will result in any governor or county official being barred from vying come August 8th?
Fred, nobody can be barred from vying for, suspicion. I can tell you until a court of law convicts, they'll vie. And I can tell you, in my view, this is pure politics. Because I don't see the possibility that there would be conclusive investigations and trials by courts of law to the end before. And remember, for purposes of going for elective posts, you will only be bad until you exhaust all your avenues of appeal, and you are convicted and penalized with punishment for at least 6 months. So I can tell you, all this is sweet politics. It can only serve to discredit, in my view, the governors in the eye of the voting population down there. Yes, there is no possibility. Just switching public opinion about a bit around matters of Chapter 6, integrity and leadership. But in terms of the architecture for a criminal law system and elective law, this can't work. It is all politics. And I'm not emboldening governors who are culpable or who could be culpable. But I'm saying we must agree to that process. You remember, Fred, when we were facing the 2013 elections, there was the thinking that the president and the deputy president would be bad because, of the ICC trials. And you remember the charges they were facing. Remember the courts said firmly, interpreting the law, that there is no way you can bar people, whatsoever the nature of the charges they are facing, wherever the forum, until there is a conviction, which then takes the liberty out of this participation. The political rights are political rights. So it will end there. But let me say, I have personally been very worried. You know the amount of money the people of Kenya expect you to, give out when you are in leadership position, whether appointive or elective, bothers me. There is something very wrong with our society. Fred, when I was practicing as a lawyer, I used to make a lot of money. And it was my money with my family. I used it as I will.
I like that.
We are in a situation where I can tell you Senator Wangari, as usual, is going to the great constituency we hope she's going to lead. And I'm praying for her. She's such a good debater.
Amen.
We are in areas now where you just stop your car. And they don't even want to say what you are doing for them or what you want to do for them later. They tell you, give it to us. It is demanded as of right. I've traveled with ministers. I've been in functions where ministers, the cabinet secretaries are, top government heads. And you go questioning where they get their money from, knowing as we do what they take from the public offers. You've seen the complaints we've been having about how much money are top government officials like the DP and others stashing around in Arambes and others. So I would agree to lifestyle audit, because corruption is a bad thing. Corruption kills. And
then again, the lifestyle audit, as you said, and this is coming from a lawyer, that this audit is heading nowhere. It's just for public opinion. Do you agree? You're also a lawyer. Do you agree that we should not even be having this as a headline because it is of no consequence?
Yes, to a certain extent, because the law is very clear that everyone is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. So therefore, I don't foresee a governor being barred from seeking re-election, notwithstanding. So
we'll just get to learn that they have 3 cars, they have 12 cars, and a big 5 big houses.
It may be good in this sense. There's something we call naming and shaming. It may lay bare facts to the public, and by doing so, of course, create ground for prosecution going forward, which is also a good thing. But also, most importantly, it may sway public opinion as against a corrupt governor. And maybe the public now will be convinced to vote out that kind of a governor. But on the other hand, strictly speaking, I don't foresee a governor being barred from seeking re-election on mere allegations. And even if you are to start a case today, it cannot be concluded before August, all factors remaining constant. And again, even if you are to convict him, there is every likelihood he is going to an appeal, and there will be an issue whether that matter is fully settled. It is a pending
10-20 years.
So I don't foresee, strictly speaking, this matter barring any governor from vying. But it's good. It is good for posterity. Yes,
I have a different view. I'm not a lawyer. I am not a lawyer, but my view is, these EACC investigations have not started now, or are not starting today because it's in the headline. They have been going on. In fact, for the last, say, 2 years, we have seen these cases being lodged in court. They are going on. So it is possible there could be a conviction before this time is over. It is very possible. But more importantly, political parties in their primaries, and I know Honorable Kaluma also have their requirements, even with the IEBC. There are requirements that you need to clear, even with AACC. You need to have your KRA in order, you need to have your credit reference bureau clearance, your HELB clearance, and I'm wondering, for the lawyers, maybe they'll tell us, if AACC does not clear you, what happens to your candidature? Because that, for me, should be the ideal situation, that if you are not cleared by one institution, it should be able to form a basis.
No, is what, no.
And we're coming to the speaker in a short while.
No, this notion of clearance, by the way, is neither here or there speaking. Because what it will say, this person has some pending investigation. So what? So what? So even if, as long as that matter has not been taken to court and ventilated and finalized,
you can appeal.
I don't see whether ICC has any power to bar any accident. The only, but also there is also a flip side to this story, in the sense that governors may as well play victim and say, hey, look, they want to bar me. I have done a very good job, and therefore they want to stop me from buying because of the kind of work that I have done. And therefore, instead of naming and shaming a governor, most likely it may even help that governor to.
Wow. And we have a senior county official here with us. Speaker, how do you see this?
Let me say the following. I welcome the move made by EACC. Is their right? They are doing their job. Let lifestyle audit be done to all state and public officers. That is okay. But let me tell you something that personally, this is what I hold and I believe. EACC, the way they conduct their business, to a greater extent, they are doing a lot of witch hunt. And I'm not supporting corruption at all. Let me tell you, Fred, if you look at the turn around of the EACC chairpersons, look at the causes of their resignation. It has something to do with secretariat. I'm one person that I believe that the day Kenyans will deal and Parliament will deal with the secretariat of EACC, that is when we will see objectivity in the manner at which EACC corruption cases are handled. And that is across. So not about Jubilee. This is not because corruption is not about Jubilee or NASA. Corruption is a cancer in this country. Secondly, personally I believe EACC, the way they conduct their business, it's like they are marketers. They are earning commission. If you have this media arresting this fellow, it's like you are going to be paid commission. I am a trained auditor. I'm not a lawyer. But I know that in any kind of investigation, there must be something called evidence. You must be able to demonstrate that these are facts that can be able to stand in courts of law. Let's go back to the list of shame that was done by the head of state. I still believe to date somebody misadvised the head of state. It was done in such a way that we will be seen like we are fighting corruption, but it has hit back on us. Reason being, the list of people that were presented to the head of state, the kind of allegation that they made, it was not even in terms of, it cannot be able to be substantiated.
Frivolous.
Quite a number of these are Facebook allegations, they are public parathas allegations, they are political allegations, and to date, and I know for a fact that quite a number of people that have been mentioned, even the EACC are not even approached them, even to take their fingerprints, even to be able to find out the record of their statement. And so for me, what the bishop Wabukala should do, the first thing, deal with the chair, the CEO, the vice chair, and the entire secretariat.
It'll be done.
Completely. That is when we will be able to. That is why Gilu and CS, they went to court and challenged that our names were submitted to Parliament when we didn't have the commission.
And we expect similar litigation by governors who are mentioned adversely in this lifestyle audit as well.
And just wide on that before I give my friend here. In terms of governors or any other state officers being bad, they already know. It is not even in any of this legislation. It is in constitution. So what are we doing here? All that we are doing is name and shame and subject this leader to court of public opinion.
Yes. Is that what EACC has been reduced to?
Absolutely.
That it is just simply shaping public
Absolutely.
or attempting to shape public opinion and not doing anything of substance.
You know, Fred, the changes to the law governing EACC, more so after the list of shame was read by the President in Parliament, is a matter I've fought over with my good friend, you know, Honorable Kangata in Justice and Regular Affairs Committee for Eternity. In fact, I don't know whether, you know, it would be said we spoke before. but that is why you see Kangata looking down.
Yes.
You know, when the President left Parliament, what we started doing was mutilating the law against the fight against corruption. Remember, we set Matemu and the team on the path of removal. And when that was happening, we changed the law to say the commissioners will be outside there. It is the secretariat running the thing. Okay. Now, a sensitive institution like the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and know what the Constitution, you know, defines a commission to be. Is the chair and the commissioners. So you have 100 people, employees of the commission, in charge of the fight against corruption as against the commissioners themselves. And then we said the commissioners are part-time. What have we done? What are the terms of service of a part-time state officer? Essentially, they don't have even a state car.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, for about 3 months into appointment, I saw 2 commissioners, you know, permanently entering public service vehicles. I mean, how do you run
EACC commissioners?
EACC commissioners, and the terms are so frugal. So what I wanted to say, what I'm saying is that we must capacitate EACC and institutions that fight corruption and give them the freedom and liberty and resources to fight corruption. In this lifestyle we are talking about, Fred, how many state officers do we have? And how many, what is the human resource strength of EACC? Can they be even able to undertake a wholesome lifestyle audit in the manner we are talking about? Then let us look at the architecture and the law. You know, it has been easy for us in the media or even in Parliament to hear people saying the problem with the fight against corruption is the courts. The courts are taking too long. The courts will not convict if there is no evidence. Fred, you saw Ngilu being cited for corruption before the floor of Parliament and in the face of the nation. And what is she charged with later on?
Obstruction.
And you know, you are just dragged, you are kept out of office, you know, that maliciously. That is why I'm personally saying that don't tell us governors. I know for the media and for EACC it is juicy. And I like how you said it. As you say, governors are. You know, let us not be distracted. The fight against corruption must look at the entire nation. All sectors. Because
is the EACC able to do that?
They can't. That is
another reason why we decided to turn to the church and probably appoint a bishop.
He applied, you know, it was an open process.
It appears like a trend now, because even the doctors' strike, mediation failed. Now we've turned to the church.
Even with the bullying, we are
going to church.
Yes,
I think, Fred, the reason why Wabukala, I think he applied, he felt like he had something new to offer. We believed so.
You can't offer in the system of law that is.
But let me tell you, I will still insist. I will still insist, Fred. I will still insist that I am a firm believer that you can afford to lose any other thing, but you cannot afford to lose your name. If there is something that EACC have perpetually been doing, is to taint people's name in the name of corruption. And I want to address Wabukala on the face. If there is something that, my brother, you really need to do, is let us have objectivity at the manner at which we are conducting this. And we believe that corruption is cancerous in this country. We believe that this is something that has to be enhanced from even a family level. And I think somebody has mentioned, recently I was in Kisumu, and I was with a friend of mine, and we drove around the town, and when we reached somewhere, I think Kondele, he told me, please let us close our windows, because there is a trend. When people see you driving with, say, a big vehicle, they believe that they must be a politician. And what do? They stop you and
They
give money.
demand by force.
They demand by force. So it is a whole culture.
You should change and drive a small car like
but
whenever
no,
you-
it's a culture change. We have to change our culture.
you know this culture, if you see what Mube has said here,
Yes.
he has said that we have come to a point that those who are in public office and are not interested in grabbing are considered unwise.
Yeah, that is
That
true.
takes
That's
me
true.
to the list. In fact, someone would ask you,
That is
we have
true.
had the NYS list, we have had the, where have you been?
Friend,
Yeah.
do you
know what
remember
I mean?
myself?
More importantly,
Can I comment?
but more
Yes,
importantly,
Bwana Kangata.
the issue of VACC, and I want to speak just before on Abu Kangata, because we keep talking about it. In fact, even when you approved my Archbishop Wabukala,
Yeah.
you are actually telling him you are going to burn your finger,
Yeah.
because where you're going, if you try touch that secretariat,
Yeah, absolutely.
you're done. That is your end.
That is
Yes.
true.
But why
That is
can't we
true.
restructure that law? We're in Parliament.
Very good.
We are in
The
Parliament.
honors goes to you then. That
No,
is why
what-
some of us are
Well,
going to
well,
Parliament.
well,
Yes, Bwana Kangata.
Yes.
Changed it.
Yes, Bwana Kangata.
This National Assembly.
Exactly.
First and foremost, I strongly
I like
believe
it.
that this commission tackles corruption after the end of the entire process, after the money has been lost. I think you need to also to understand. First, is a small commission. The problem is quite huge. The problem, we need to have a larger commission, which is also decentralized. But also, most importantly, instead of looking at corruption at the end, after the money has been lost and you're now talking of prosecution, what of the root causes of corruption? To me, if you are to put our mind there, most likely this commission will become idle. So to me, I want to defend the commission. That commission comes after. And again, it's also somehow oversight. It does not take a person to court directly. It has to seek approval of the DPP. So in a nutshell, I also believe that taking that into account, that the process is somehow oversighted by the office of the DPP, you can't really fault EACC. But also, as to what are the causes of corruption, there are several. It's a long discussion, but I also believe we need to make our government quite small. The larger the government, the higher the probability of corruption. I can give you a good example.
The bigger our parliament, the higher the...
Yes, the bigger the government, the more money you allocate, the more departments you create, the more ministries you create, the more the problem you are getting into. So the smaller the government, the better. And I can give you a good example. Like now, I have seen issues of integrity being raised in regard to an investment in Kisumu by an authority called the Lake Basin Development Authority. Surely that authority is no longer needed under devolution. Is no longer needed. And we have several of them. We have another one in Coast.
We have many.
We have another one. Those are upon devolution. I think you need to do away with such entities.
Okay.
So that you either send that directly to county.
Okay.
To me, that
Let me read the quotes. Let me read the quotes on the front page of the Daily Nation before they come to the senator. This is the DPP. Now that you mentioned him, he has already said those in court include 3 governors, 2 county assembly speakers, 42 MCAs, 9 county secretaries, and 198 other county officials. That's the DPP saying. Whether those will end up in convictions or not, we can only hope and wait. Michael Mubea, ESCC Deputy Director, says we've not seen this kind of corruption in the history of this nation. Those who are in public office and are not interested in grabbing, as you said it, are considered unwise. Now, we need to wrap up this discussion so that we switch gears.
Can I support the DPP and probably oppose some of the sentiment that was said by my colleague? The reason why people bash judiciary is very simple. Not because of the issue whether they are convicted or not, because of the time they take towards disposing these matters. We have so many cases which have been pending for 5 or 6 years. Why is it that the judiciary does not prosecute? Let me not even say obvious cases. The issue is about the timeline.
Very good.
I would imagine a case once instituted today ought to be finalized within the next 6 or 1 year. Yes, I know.
But we've had some very quick judicial interventions. If you check the case in Nyeri for the 3 county executives, first of all, the work of to prosecute is not with the courts. It is the DPP's office to actually prosecute. But more important, the evidence must be submitted. We have seen cases closed, so I wouldn't really bash the judiciary. But I hope that these cases that have been there, the DPP has already done the procedure of prosecution and it is ongoing. But I also want to say something about if we as a country cannot be barred from public office due to malpractices and malfeasance, and it becomes like it is normal, we have created a culture that is so dangerous for us to revert.
Aren't we there already,
Because
Senator?
Fred,
to revert, really.
We've not seen anyone bad from
To
office
revert,
because of
we
the
must get to
integrity.
some point
Fred, today,
that integrity chapter is actually actualized. Otherwise,
And which is still under ESCC to check.
Today, I believe that the mess around the fight against corruption is not just about the regime we currently have, but the parliament we have, most of the National Assembly. I can tell you,
of which you are a member.
it is the National Assembly which the current executive has used to kill the fight against corruption. You cannot fight, a serious thing like corruption outside of the law. We are the ones who have weakened the law. We are the ones who have not ensured there are laws that would, secure, due prosecution straight away by ESCC. You have to pass through DPP, and in this chain there is a lot of rent seeking. Fred, we are taking it for granted. But let me tell you, we have a commission that presided over the sale of the property, a public property, then their office staying to an individual. And they still come to Parliament telling you, now give us a budget to buy a property to go into. And they just get them selling it to themselves and their former partners. And it is normal. So me, I think the weakest link today
is Parliament.
Is one in Parliament, two at the office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
And probably this is why SRC has said that you need to forget pension or send off pay. That's the headline on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Forget pension, send off pay. Lawmakers told by salaries boss. Lawmakers have been denied a 2.9 billion shilling pension they were salivating over. They had also been eyeing 3.3 billion severance pay, but the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has told them to forget.
That one will be paid.
You will be paid.
Let me tell you.
A parliament that you say, and even as a member of that,
let me tell you, Fred, there is a thinking.
You will pass this one.
There is a thinking in Kenya which is anti-leadership. We must be able to begin respecting leadership for what it is.
But
it is not easy to be a leader. Remember, let us be truthful. Just the other day we negotiated, the terms of leaving of office for the IEBC commissioners.
Even now we've done for a while.
Yeah, for a while and others. When anybody is leaving office, you know what I mean? There are legal provisions in terms of their emoluments when they leave. Why should it be debated whether or not it will be paid? But we have a law on Parliamentary Pensions Act. Actually, that is it not subject. Is it not subject to SRC? I'm telling you, there is a law. And SRC must only proceed under the law. We have a Parliamentary Pensions Act which provides for gratuity, pensions, and the terms for it and the amounts. This is politics for the sake of it. And I think SRC is the one institution we need to fight in this country. If this doctor strike, this is a I'm telling you, SRC. Fred, when doctors are still fighting for their salary, what is it telling you? Yet we've had a Salaries and Remuneration Commission for how many years? Lecturers are fighting for their salaries. People still do not know what they should be earning. We have a commission which is busy politicking instead of sitting and one of settling, the salaries of public servants.
Yes. Before we come to the speaker,
I totally disagree with my brother here. The commission that is headed by Seren is so important in this country. Without it, I can assure you we are going to have a situation where 100% of our revenues are being paid to government officials, whether doctors, whether lecturers, whether members of parliament. This is a scandal where we have a society where 55% of our national revenue is being used to pay 500,000 Kenyan citizens. That is, you have a situation where 39.9 million of Kenyans, they do not have a single earning. Their earning is somehow not assured. But 500,000 public servants, including members of parliament, are getting 55% of our revenue. But you had your colleague, and when if you are to agree with his argument, you know what will happen? We are going to push that figure. It will go to 100% where we are just paying government. I support commission because it somehow vetoes. This idea of we people in government, our idea is just to get money from government. Government does not have what we call a bottomless pit of money. It doesn't have.
Speaker, allow me to finish with the lawmakers first.
It is the same rationale, by the way. I have an issue with the doctors' strike because we need roads, we need water, we need investment. You can't say we need roads, we need medicine. Who is talking about the poor patient? Who is talking on behalf of the poor patient? Who is talking about the poor lady without water?
Senator, let's not move. Let's stick with the members of parliament. You're diverting this discussion. Don't go to the doctors yet.
No, it's connected.
We'll get there.
It is connected.
Before we come to Speaker Koche, Senator, and you heard Peter Kaluma say the first statement he said is that this one we will get
because there is a law.
You know, just recently we were discussing a situation where the president and the deputy actually got a 10% increase in their salaries. I remember I was in a panel here.
And the cabinet secretary.
And the cabinet secretary. And you know, someone was trying to oppose it. And you know, my point was simple. You know, everywhere you work, there is what you get. Even as members of parliament, every year we get our increase in terms of salary. At the end of your tenure, you are entitled to something. But I will also tell you, SRC has not been very popular. In fact, I remember when we came in parliament, like senators are not friends of SRC. Because first of all, they put us on an equal salary scale with members of the National Assembly, despite representing a wider area, which we thought was a good parameter to deal with the salaries. But you cannot also do away with SRC, because I'll tell you, if we were left, Honorable Kaluma, to actually just decide our salaries like we used to do before, I'll tell you,
they will just determine
what they are saying would be actually a joke. We would be doing worse than it is.
But Kaluma, you've suggested that you need to fight
does their work. SRC does their work, but do not demonize MPs
before we come back to Bwana Kaluma,
because of fighting for their rights in terms of pension and their entitlements.
I would want to ask, first of all, that we don't become emotional on this matter. Kenyans are already emotional, so I would rather we offer the other side of it. Looking at the whole issue of salaries, let's first of all, county assemblies were in court, so I can't comment on this.
On
because we are in court on this, on term.
And you'll succeed
on term of office. The issue is, and I think it is, we have an opportunity to explain to Kenyans why this kind of conversation is where it is now. Parliament came into being March 2013. It has a life of how many years? 5 years. 5 years, assume that is a contract. The 5-year term is coming to an end in March 2018. Okay? Even you, Fred, you must be operating on a contract. And in that contract, if your contract comes to an end before, there's what you call in absolutely. It is as simple as that. And the same constitution says, therefore, that election will be done the second Tuesday of August this year. And so what everybody is asking is, now that the term is coming to an end prematurely, what happens for the remaining of the term? That is all the discussion.
Yet you were aware, they were aware that their term would be shorter.
Secondly,
the constitution defines terms.
Secondly, I know for a fact that SRC, the commissioners, their term is coming to an end this year. Okay? And what Sarah Sereb is doing, let me just say, she's just doing what is expected of her to do, to give her opinion. And she has done very well. She has given her opinion. That is her opinion in terms of her functionality. She has done that. But let Parliament, I don't want to get into that, but let Parliament follow the procedure they're doing. For us,
we expect when it comes to doctors and these other people,
and that's where we go. That is where you go.
Let me, clarify something so that I don't go off line on this matter.
Yes.
Being seen negatively. I never said we should do away with SRC.
Yes. But you said that
SRC has badly failed and we should deal with it.
But and it's on record. You said that SRC is one commission that we should fight.
We should deal with. Actually, even if it is fighting it. Not fighting it to kill it. And I'm saying it in context. Fred, you see the salaries of the president, the deputy, the cabinet secretaries being approved for increment from what amount? And yet you see Kenyans of lower cadre on the streets the doctors are on the streets, and of course the teachers are perennially on the streets. SRC is not intervening to say should we improve these terms or not. SRC to date has not set standards for determining what you should earn based on your academic standing and others. That is why it is easy for Kangata, who took less years in the university than doctors, to say doctors should not earn much. I don't think you've really thought about what doctors mean and what they do. But the CBA agreement, you remember, is beyond the salary. Number two, what I'm saying is that when there is an entitlement, either in terms of contract or the law, SRC has no business other than politics shouting it will not deal with it. The matter of parliamentary pensions is not a law we made in this parliament. By the way, it has been there since the 9th parliament, the parliamentary pensions.
But what about the severance pay?
And when it makes provisions for that, it is as good as that. Now, in terms of severance pay, remember the Constitution defines the term of this leadership. There is a term of office of the President, the term of office of members of Parliament in the National Assembly and Senate, the term of office of the members of the County Assembly. Particularly for the County Assembly, the law is very clear. It is 5 years term.
5 year term.
But when you read them together, the Constitution also says all those elections will be held at the same time. So if a term is 5 years, you can interpret it in terms of the other. The issue is, if you had a contract to serve citizens for 5 years and you are severed from your employment today, Kangata will tell you what the law provides. We've had it with the EACC Commission, Ringeras and others. We've had it with IEDC. For somebody to debate whether or not you'll be given that which you are entitled to by law,
you will continue fighting SRC.
Not fighting. This will have to be paid. That is what I said. It's politics.
Does it ever prick your conscience to see a jobless graduate?
Certainly.
Or no, does it prick your conscience to see a Mama Boga who wants about 100 shillings per day?
Certainly.
Do you know there's a correlation between high salaries or high wage bill with the unemployed?
This is not salary increment.
I'm telling you, there's a correlation. There's a direct correlation.
This is pensions.
A Mama Boga who is as human as you, who earns 6,000 shillings in a month.
Now, Kangata is saying politics.
Allow me to argue. There's a direct correlation. When you have a country that only devotes so little in development, which development, by the way, creates employment for a jobless graduate, which expands the private sector, and therefore you have a situation where we in government, including members of parliament, we are getting so much vis-a-vis the failure of SRC that I'm talking about. SRC is doing a good job to ensure public wage bill does not overshoot. No, allow me to argue. SRC is doing a good job to ensure the wage bill does not overshoot other important areas like development vote, which generate employment in private sector, we generate development. And without it, you are going to have a fiscal problem, like it is happening in Greece. And therefore, in my own assessment,
Kangata does not understand what we are talking about.
No, there's a correlation. Let me tell you, for instance, there's a direct link.
There's a pension and the severance pay.
There is a link.
Yes, he does not understand what we are talking about.
No, look here, one point. Let me tell you the problem. Let me tell you the problem. You see, these so-called unemployed people, they have no voice, they have no union, no one talks on their behalf. They cannot push for their interest. No one.
Okay.
It is a problem. No one.
Let me say this. Let me say this, Fred. What Irungu Kangata is saying is good and right, but not in the context. Completely. So what he's saying is very good. If you had brought these issues of that parliamentarians and members of parliament are looking for higher salary, that conversation could have been relevant. But the discussion we're having is simple, a matter of law and interpretation. It's a simple, and he's a lawyer. So nobody is talking about we want members of parliament to be increasing their salary. Nobody has said about it. All that we are saying is this: implement the law to the latter. Correct. Simple as that. The discussion about whether Mama Boka is earning zero or not is a discussion not for this debate.
No, there's a direct link.
Very good.
Anyway,
let me give you a good example.
We'll be back to finalize this discussion. Take one more headline, but that's when Power Breakfast returns.
Very good.
Do you know what the government are saying? You